From the title of this story, you think that this would be some bizarro science fiction story, and in many ways it is, but also in many ways it isn't. Hello everybody, your friendly neighborhood demonic Ravenwolf, October, is back with another weird tale. This weird tale, written in 1939, written by Everil Worrell, starts off in a place you wouldn't really expect considering the title of the story, on a rocky island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, with the account of one particular castaway and his descriptions of the island, as well as the rest, who are also stranded on this rock when their yacht sank. This kind of leads to our first major issue with the story, because I'm not really sure how many other people are stranded on the island with him, because he doesn't really describe them, and it's kind of hard to keep track of all these other characters, and I think it would have been better if there wasn't so many other characters. Maybe they could have just been written out. The story does do somewhat well in trying to work these characters into the story, but, well, I just wish they were in it a little more, and they had a little bit more of a purpose. Anyway, back to the main character's description. He describes how they feel towards one another, as well as their lack of resources and the maddening strength they have to muster in order to survive each day on this desolate rock. With an opening like this, you would think that maybe the title, The Hollow Moon, might be a representational thing or a metaphor for the hollowness within the castaways, as well as maybe their hopelessness about the situation, maybe? Or maybe the island is a representation of the moon with its rocky outgrowth and a lack of resources within an ocean. Oh boy, was I wrong. I was wrong about thinking that this whole the hollow moon thing is a metaphor. Oh boy, because something really weird happens, as it often does in these stories. The main character giving an account of this hopeless situation is a man by the name of Michel Sidney, who describes himself in the overly dramatic way as a scientific explorer, a delver into hidden secrets and hidden places.
I'm a scientist. I don't believe in anything.
He describes himself in this way while he's on the island and giving himself a bunch of favoritism compared to the other castaways, which I don't know if this is supposed to be character development or if we're supposed to seek favoritism with his character. I don't know. He just describes himself in this flamboyant way. It's very weird. I don't know if it's a translation thing. I don't know. It's just crazy. Anyway, the turn in this tale occurs when they find Valerie, one of the other castaways, has been bitten in the neck by something. Although she is in fact alive, on first glance of the bite marks, it looks like it might be from a snake. Although, obviously, this is a snake bite, Michel Sidney accuses Gibbs, one of the other castaways on the island, of doing this to her, because earlier that day, he tried to kill his wife, and his wife tried to kill him. Yeah, that's a whole other thing in the first part of this story, and it kind of made me think that the story was going to be about a madness of survival or something. Yeah, it's a very weird plot point in the story and doesn't really lead anywhere. Coinciding with this biting event, hope of rescue comes in the form of a newcomer to the island and his yacht. Overjoyed about this rescue, Michael Sidney then goes and tells everybody that they are rescued. However, he finds yet another castaway who has similar wounds to Valerie's, and he is dead. For some reason, he doesn't seem to put the pieces together that the arrival of this stranger and the coinciding victims are connected in some way. Instead, he blames Gibbs for the murder of the crewmate, instead of the obviously strange person who arrived to the island, who, by the way, is wearing a black cape. Wow, this guy must be a wizard at Clue. They find that their mysterious host's name is Lenoir, and he allows the castaways to sleep in the hull of his yacht while they sail away from the dreaded rock that they were marooned on. While they're on board Lenoir's yacht, they start to experience strange alterations in time, as well as disorientation, and every day they feel weaker and drained of energy. Taking a cruise on a carnival line would probably give you the same effect. But even worse, Lenoir serves them food that looks kind of weird. Probably the most terrifying thing on board. While they're traveling in this yacht, they also experience confusion about what time of day it is, because anytime they look out the portholes, it is night, even though their watches register that it should be morning. When they question Lenoir about the unusual happenings on board, he seems to either give them unusual answers or not straightforward questions. The long aimless nights continue as even Michelle Sidney, the main character, starts to lose focus about what time it is. And we all know how annoying that can be when you don't know what time it is. Also, ooh, I don't know what time it is. Spooky, right? No? Okay. Now, Michael Sidney, mind you, an explorer of science, comes up with a very interesting conclusion. They're not sailing on the sea, they're actually going through space. Of course, nobody believes him because this is the most, insane theory that anyone could come up with in this situation. However, interestingly, he is in fact correct that they are in fact sailing into the void of space on a yacht? Spacecraft? I don't know. They don't really explain what or how this journey is possible. Finally, after many grueling days, they finally arrive at their destination, the surface of the moon, where the ship gradually descends into a lunar crater. After the landing of this ship, Michelle, Sidney, and Valerie exit the confines of it and explore their new surroundings. Now, up to this point, the story has been very odd and unusual, but it's about to get even stranger, believe it or not. Because at this point in the story, you're about to discover the horribly weird and somewhat awesome truth about the moon. The moon itself is actually hollow, and not only that, it is hell. Yeah, that's the twist. The moon is not just hollow, it is also hell somehow. As the castaways are coming to grips with this unusual revelation, they find a bunch of strange creatures which they described as jelly-like, bat-like, and reptilian-like from a bygone era on Earth. This is also the part in the story where Lenoir, the strange, eccentric man who brought them there, reveals his true form, a serpent with bat wings, who is also, of course, a vampire. Because why not, I guess? This story just goes into this weird, demented place. I love it. It's just so insane. Lenoir also interestingly tells them that there are more hells out there, so maybe this isn't the hell? I don't know. They never explain. Before they can be ensnared by Lenoir, Michelle and Valerie escape in a series of tunnels throughout the moon, where they are able to find an opening to the surface. They realize that their fates are sealed because if they stay there in hell, they are dead, but if they go out into the void of space, they are also dead. So they come to the conclusion that out there in the void of space is better than dying in hell. So of course, they throw themselves out into the void of space. Before doing so, however, they throw a bottle containing this account in it out there first. So perhaps one day people can know what happened to them. And the end, right? I mean, this is the perfect place to conclude this story, right? Well, no. They continue. Because apparently, as they threw themselves out into the void of space, they formed two ice balls, which eventually form these giant ice crystalline chambers that smash into the Earth, where they are mistaken as icebergs by a ship that is collecting scientific data. And they are perfectly preserved and alive, and so are the other castaways, somehow escaping the moon themselves in this frozen state. And also, of course, since Sidney is a man of science, he publishes a paper based on their experience where some scientists believe him due to the scientific accuracies on their voyage to the moon. And this is where the story finally ends. This story is truly, 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 truly crazy, and you have to read it to believe it actually exists. It seems like somebody originally wanted to write a story about the trials and tribulations of being a castaway, and then somebody took over the whole project and said, I'm going to write this very bizarre cosmic horror story. And I am definitely here for the weird. I will sacrifice myself on the pillar of the weird. This story was insane. I just loved it from beginning to end because it is just so crazy. I have to say, my only real criticism of the story is that there's a little bit too many characters to keep track of, and I'm not really sure exactly what the timeline of events, if he's telling the whole story in a past tense, or if he's telling it in volumes of past tense, where like he tells one part of the story, and then he's telling another part of the story in the next past tense. But when it gets to its conclusion, you just are wondering how insane this story is going to get, and you want to continue reading. Definitely check this story out if you get the chance, and never get on a boat with a guy who is wearing a black cape. Seriously, what was wrong with you guys?